going on, guys? Welcome back to Sim Fellas. I am Kevin Miller, and welcome to another episode of Seven with Kevin, where I catch up with everything that you've seen and watch stuff that you may haven't. And I'm going to double down on that last part because that is the theme for this list. I chose movies off the list that I probably would gather not a lot of you would know about, but I would like to give exposure to movies that are not as popular, or something like Transformers or any Marvel movie. Anyway, here we go. Let's take look at the first one. We are kicking off the list with Close to You. This film stars Elliot Page as a man coming home to his family after transitioning from a woman to a man. Obviously, Elliot Page used to be Ellen Page, so this whole story is probably very close to his heart. Um, yes, in this film, conflicts do arise related to the transgender experience, but I thought this movie captured what it's like to go back to a family gathering and people know something that makes you stand out. In this case, it's transgenderism, but it could have been really used for anything. Maybe coming out of the closet, being an addict, just having any type of talk. And I thought the movie caught the energy quite well, but it doesn't really do anything like really great with it. It's a very mundane film. It's very boring, and I think if you know you were gonna have a movie, especially something that Paige has gone through as a person outside the business, I thought that Paige would want to maybe make it a little more, have a little more umph, but it doesn't. It's kind of boring and mundane and lazily directed. And let me tell you something, I don't know the decision to cast the love interest with an actress that you really can't understand. There is a character in here that is from Paige's past, and they have some type of flirtation, but you can't understand the actress. I just don't understand what they were thinking about, and it really takes away from the film. This film also does a lot of improv, and it's not really that good of improv. You can see them struggling, or the conversations aren't really that deep. Overall, just a bad misfire, and it's a shame because I think Paige really wanted to hammer home an important message of acceptance and love with this movie, but unfortunately, it's a mess, and I'm going to give this one 2 out of 5 Elliot Page hair pieces. Okay, so we got Ian McKellen, Jenna Arterton, Mark Strong, and Ben Barnes, who played Jigsaw on the Punisher Netflix series. I mean, what a cast! Those are all really good actors. Here, McKellen stars as a drama critic for theater, and he's very popular. Actors and the public take his opinion very seriously. And Gemma Arterton plays an actress who is making her debut, and she is nervous as hell because the guy is, scathing with his reviews. He does not hold back. McKellen also, his character is something that is a no-no in this time. He is a homosexual who is having an affair with his male assistant, and Mark Strong, who runs the paper, finds this out and fires him. And McKellen basically hatches a plan to use Arterton to basically seduce Mark Strong and make a whole affair, and basically not good for business. In exchange, Arterton will get a review of glowing recommendation from McKellen. Sounds like a good premise, sounds like something that McKellen and this cast can do, but just like Close to, it is boring. It never takes off. There's so much promise in this movie that I was waiting for, but nothing really comes to float, and you're just left with a movie that is very predictable. It's a very, very predictable film, but it's just not good. Ian McKellen is great. The guy can read off a menu and he make it sound epic. I like Gemma Arterton in this movie. I thought she was very good. She was very good up against McKellen, who's a veteran. But it's not a good movie. It's very passive, and it's very forgettable. I kind of forgot about this movie before I opened up this document. And with that, I'm going to give this one 2 out of 5 McKellen hair pieces. I don't know. Number 3, this film also was very mundane and kind of boring and didn't really take off with the premise. And this movie is called The Room Next Door. Pedro Alvarmar, who is a very famous Spanish director. He did this. This was his first movie fully in English because usually his stuff is subtitled. It has Julianne Moore. It has Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton is dying of a disease, and she reconnects with Julianne Moore. They haven't really talked in a while. And, what starts off as a promising look at a friendship that kind of went away and now is rekindling. There are some cool parts to this, but nothing really popped out. It is it just, this goes along and I couldn't connect with anything, which is incredibly surprising since Moore and Tilda Swinton are two fantastic actresses. I will give this movie credit. It looks beautiful. Alomar basically paints each frame with such a beautiful color style. Everything looks great. It's a good distraction from the melodrama from this film. It's very melodramatic at points. When it doesn't capture you at first, it tries pulling you in with over the top acting. And there was a movie with Julia Moore that came out 2 years ago called May December, and I thought that film is basically everything right about an attempt at this kind of story. It was melodramatic, but it was kind of self-aware. This one is very melodramatic and not self-aware, and it just keeps, grasping for straws, saying, "Okay, we're gonna make this sad. We're gonna try to make this profound," but it just falls flat on its face. And I'm gonna give this a very surprising 2 out of 5 Julia Moore hairpieces. All right, so we're out of the two hairpiece thing. We're going to a higher level, and I'm gonna talk about the movie Rumors. You guys probably never heard of this. Kate Blanchett's in this one, and it is about the G7 summit. And you have different world leaders from different countries coming to meet. And some of these people, as I said, Kate Blanchett plays the representative from Germany. Who else? We have Charles Dance. I'm sorry, Charles Dance playing the President of the United States, and Denis Monochet, I hope I'm saying that right, plays the President of France. Denis Moshe was the farmer in the beginning of Inglourious Bastards. Of course, you know that Christopher Waltz is incredible in that movie, but I think a lot of what made that work in the first scene was Denis Moshe's performance. And here, he's a little bigger. He's, I guess, on the Russell Crowe diet, but he's good. He had a lot of chaotic and mischievous energy in this movie. Even when this movie gets a little pretentious and up its own ass, he's there and he kind of he's fun to watch. And anytime he was on screen, I was either laughing, smiling, or I was saying like, this guy's good. He's making this enjoyable. As I said, this thing is a little bit of love in itself, but if you are into this type of film, a little out there, I recommend it, especially for Denis Moshe's performance. And I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5 Denis Moshe hairpieces. Okay, so I know that musicals are not really popular amongst a lot of people. I personally like it. There are really bad musicals that are made into movies, but there are also very good ones. And I did not know my next film, The End, starring Tilda Swinton, was a musical. So in this film, we have a family that is in an underground bunker, and this family consists of Michael Shannon as the father, Tilda Swinton as the mother, and George McKay as the son. They have a nice dynamic there. Nothing really goes wrong. They do sing songs. More on that later. But things get shaken up when a girl named, girl played by Moses Ingram comes into the picture. She basically makes everyone question themselves, and she falls in love with George McKay's character. The film was a bit long, but I admire it because this is an original musical. It's awesome to see Michael Shannon belt out tunes, and I thought he did a great job. It's a little long, but it has its heart in the right place, and it does take chances, and it's bold and unapologetic in its vision. And there really aren't really a lot of films that you can say that about. And I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5 Tilda Swinton hairpieces. Okay, so at the end of 2025, beginning 2026, depending when you watch it, the Stranger Things finale will air. And then it's going to become an interesting thing of seeing, okay, who is going to have a career after that show and who's just basically going to cling to that show or be known just for that show. And I'm talking about Stranger Things because I'm going to talk about Maya Hawke. She is the daughter of both Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke directs this movie called Wildcat. This movie is about an author called Flannery O'Connor. Uh, she was bold and apologetic and, just a really hardcore bitch. And she did not take no for an answer. She was a brilliant writer. And in this film, Hawke directs the piece with an artistic eye. There is a lot of nice cinematography here. There are basically decisions to put short stories written by the author into the narrative that fit pretty nicely well into the flow of things. I liked it. And in those narratives, Maya Hawke plays whatever character is the main character in those specific stories. Yeah, so I liked Maya Hawke. I thought she was very good. She looks like her mother so much in some of these shots. Laura Linney plays her mother, and Laura Linney's character kind of is clueless. And there's a great scene where she encounters a mother and a son who are both black, and she tries to be kind of condescending, and it kind of blows up in her face. So that was kind of funny. And Maya Hawke's character, Flannery O'Connor, does not basically want anything to do with her mother's beliefs as far as racism and class, and she's a rebel. This is a very esoteric film. You may not connect with it. You may not even know who the hell Flannery O'Connor is. I personally didn't know either. But I liked what Hawk did with this and kind of made me aware. And I will definitely probably check out some of her short stories. And I'm going to give this one 3.5 out of 5 Maya Hawke hair pieces. And finally, the best of the bunch. So I watched this movie called Hard Troops, and this is the new film from director and writer Mike Leigh, who is British. Some of his films, if you heard of them, are Topsy Turvy, There Are Drake, Secrets and Lies. The last one came out in 1996. I'm talking about Secrets and Lies, and basically starred Marie Jean Baptiste, and she was nominated for an Oscar. I remember that was one of the first Oscars I watched as a kid. So she reunites with her director writer Mike Leigh, and you could have called this movie "Grumpy Old Woman" because she plays probably one of the most vile people I have ever watched on screen. Not even this year, probably in my life. This woman is harsh. She's cold. She is nasty, but in that nastiness, there are some funny lines, and she can piss you off 1 minute, but then she says something in sarcasm, and it's hilarious. But Marine Jean Baptiste is a good actress, and the second half of the movie comes forward, and you start to see why she's like this. And this is where this movie kind of shines. And we all know someone who hides an inner hurt in themselves, and I thought Marine Jean Baptiste basically was very good at projecting both the viciousness of the sarcasm and the vulnerability of someone who has been hurt but is hiding behind such a negative show. The insults can get a little too much at times, and it does go over the top. But I think Marine Jean Baptiste creates a very memorable character, and in the hands of a less talented actress, I think this would have been a little too much or one dimensional. But the director and the actress sync, and it's a good performance. And I recommend the movie if you like British humor. But it's funny, but you're gonna be like 20 minutes in, and you'll be like, oh my god, this woman is a terrible person. But anyway, I'm gonna give this one 3.5 out of 5 Mike Leigh hair pieces. Okay, that's it. Did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? Let me know below. Come to the site, cinephels.com. We're on X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're always reviewing the latest in video games, movies, and TV. Yeah, so that wraps it up. I'd like to thank you guys for basically watching. I love geeking out with you guys and letting you know what's hot. Next week, the next one, I'm going to go back to watching movies that are fun. I look forward to basically discussing it with you. And as we say in this site, I'm Kevin Muller, and cheers.